I saw some stuff going on Monday. Some seed time harvest. And I thought, there's some seed I don't want to plant. Yeah, ice. I know what temperature well water is around here, and it's cold. Tonight I want to share with you about seed. I may have a reputation. Evan comes up to me and he brings me seeds, little maple seeds, and he knows I like trees, and so I got a bunch of trees I've planted and all this fun stuff, and I don't know, I just kind of look at what God did, and I think things that man have made, they last, for a while, and then they have to be repaired. And Heath will attest to that. Man-made stuff has to be fixed. And I look at God's stuff and this whole seed thing, and I watch this, little plant that looks dead, looks like there's nothing there, and all of a sudden life comes out of it. And I think, man, right out of nothing it looks like, and something amazing comes out. And then it has enough energy inside of that, what looked like dead, to be able to start life. Because there's enough energy inside that seed to build the root that's going to eventually get nutrients. It's not like it comes with a root. It didn't order it on eBay, although I may have ordered some of my seeds on eBay. It had enough inside of it to put itself in a position to produce. That's God saying, yeah, I got this. And it still works until we mess it up. That process is still happening. If you stop cleaning things up and killing things and mowing things, the seeds will take over, and they will grow, and they will grow, and they will grow on your house and eventually in your house. I don't know if you've ever seen an old house and, all of a sudden there's a tree growing out the window. I'm like, it just took one animal carrying it in and leaving it. And then all of a sudden. So seed. I don't know, I enjoy that. I look at that and see God's ability to say, yeah, I'm seated on the Most High throne, and you know what? What I did is still working today. He trusts that what he did is still working today. My focus for today is trust the seed. How many has ever planted something and you're wondering, is anything happening in there? Now, I will admit, I may have bought a few extra seeds so I could poke at them. I wanted to see what it looks like. And I thought, let's see, is anything happening yet? Oh, yeah, I guess I'm going to leave that alone. It didn't look like it. It was going down, and then it'll come up. Sometimes we might struggle with thinking, well, is anything happening? And some interesting things that I learned in this process, I thought, well, why did this seed go and this one didn't? Well, seeds are smart. Some seeds know, I need to wait for almost 40 days, and I need to be below the certain temperature before I will germinate and begin to grow. It knows it needs to go through winter. Because if a seed falls in the middle of summer and it immediately starts, it's the wrong time. It's going to be dry. How many knows it's a little dry right now? So if that seed had a couple weeks ago when all those maple leaf seeds fell, and it went right now, it would die. It says, I know I need to wait till winter has come and gone, and then I will burst open when there's the most amount of water. Springtime. Do you trust the seed? I mean, do I trust God that his timing works? Because why aren't you growing now? You could be frustrated with your seed and say, why aren't you growing now? Why is nothing happening? It's like, I got this. If I grow right now, I will not be prepared for winter. I won't make it through the dry time, and I won't be sturdy enough to make it through the cold time. That little seed that looks like nothing has that much intelligence built into it. I just want my phone to connect to Wi-Fi. I mean, it did it yesterday. Why does it not do it today? Do you understand? That seed's not broke. It's not dependent. God has let it go, and it's produced over and over and over again. And then I think, inside that little thing is thousands more like it, ready to be obedient to what God told it to do. So I was thinking about planting, and we're talking about giving tonight. And sometimes I think we may say, well, I paid my tithe. Look at all the seed I have in the ground. And sometimes we go, well, where's my 100-fold return? And we have information that's not accurate. And if we're tithing and truma and those things, that's obedience. And there's blessings that come from being obedient. Okay? There's the 12 blessings of the tither. Okay? So, is that obedient or is that seed? Sounds like obedience to me. So another example. All right, I put fuel in the tractor, and I greased the tractor, and I bought a plow. Maybe that's my truma and my tithe. Okay? Well, I'm just waiting on a harvest. I got the tractor all fueled up. I even pulled it over by the field. Did a couple laps. But you have to actually go buy seed. And then you have to plant that seed. I wonder, sometimes we look at our life and think, well, man, I thought I did what God said. And we may have, but if we considered our tractor payment our seed, unless you can get tractors to plant them and get more tractors, I don't think that's how that works. I mean, they're green, they're red. I don't know. If you plant them, do you get a brown one? I don't know. But I mean, I think if you plant a tractor in a field, all you're going to get is a stuck tractor, you know. The only way you're going to get more is if someone comes over and gets stuck too. Yeah, and then you can say, look at all the tractors I have. But none of them are going anywhere, you know. So I think it's important for us to be able to classify when do we actually plant seed. Because if you're expecting a harvest on your diesel fuel bill, you may inaccurately be expecting something. Does that make sense? Yes. So if we're looking at our tithe and our truma and we're saying, well, I've planted seed. I'm looking for a harvest. Well, how about obedience? At the end of obedience, there's blessings. Then we can move into this here. And here in 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 6, it says this. But this I say, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. So let each one give as he purposes in his heart, not grudgingly or in necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. All right, so I don't purpose in my heart to decide how much I'm going to tithe. That's been decided for me. God is looking for obedience, and so at the end of my obedience, he says, well, then I can bless you with these things because you've been obedient. This is talking about another mindset of giving. So how do we classify that? Well, we may classify that as a free will offering or a alms or something that is not required of God. It's outside. You've been obedient. And now I'm a cheerful giver. It's not talking about an obedient giver. We've done obedient. I filled the tractor up. I got it ready to go. And now I've decided this is what I want to plant. This is what I want to reproduce. And I'm going to put certain seed in a certain field, and it has an intention. I want something to be produced from that. Well, one thing we have to do is we have to trust the seed, that it'll do what it said it would do. And then we have to trust the ground. I got some corn. I won't say from where. And it was, I was pretty excited about it. It was a big bag of corn. I thought, man, we're going to have lots of corn. Guess what? Not a one came up. And I thought, and I went and I talked to him. I said, I get maybe half of them didn't come up, or I get, a few of them came up, but I'm talking about zero, none. I even planted some in little trays, like who starts corn in their greenhouse? But I'm like, let me just test. I had a few left, right? Nothing. And I thought, what do you do about that? Do you have a policy for when you get a whole bag of seed and it's no good? No, because we don't know what your ground's like. I tell you what my ground's like. It's like dirt. Everything else grows in it. You're going to have to trust that the ground is going to do what the ground is going to do. Now, if we're not obedient, does that cause our seed to be no good? If I give grudgingly or of necessity, or how about this? Well, I'm going to play the Christian lottery and I'm going to give. I'm hoping for 100-fold return. The Christian stock market. If that was actually truth, do you understand everybody would be doing it? That's not how that works. God's looking for a cheerful giver. There's blessings that happen, but if you're giving to get a check sent to you in the mail, I'm sorry, friends, that's the wrong motive. If I'm giving to get, I'm not giving. I was just trying to do, cheap investing. God can bless someone who has a cheerful heart, who gives because they're thankful, because they see what God has already done in their life. But if we give from a mentality, well, I don't have, so I got to give to get. Do you understand? How can God bless that? Because it doesn't matter how much he blesses that same person will always be in a position of, I need. So I have to move out of this position of, I need, to the position of, I am blessed. And if I don't move to that position, I will never be blessed. I'll be a millionaire, and I will not be blessed. I'll be a millionaire who doesn't have enough, who's in need and giving to get. And so people can find success in the world. And friends, God must be his favors on me because I'm blessed. Do you know there's a lot of wealthy people in this world that did not do that because God blessed them. So having a lot of money is not a determination of I'm doing what's right. There's a lot of rich people who are not doing what's right. So if I'm gauging, well, that person's blessed, they must be doing what's right. Friends, there's people who have died addicted to drugs alone with lots of money. So God didn't bless them. He gave them a gift, and what they did with it is what they did with it. If I want to truly be blessed, then I have to be obedient, and then I have to have the mindset that I will give and sow cheerfully and not grudgingly, not expecting God to, send me a check back. You understand? I'm not giving an offering to hope for an annuity payment at the end of the month, I'm going to trust the seed, that the seed will produce something. Verse 8 says, "And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you, always having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work." There's a lot of people that have abundance, but they just leave it and they never do anything with it. They accumulate their abundance, and it really doesn't become anything. They never use it. They just hoard it for that day that, when it rains or something. As it is written, "He has dispersed abroad and has given to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. Now may he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food supply and multiply all the seed you have sown and increase the fruits of your righteousness." God gets involved when we have the right attitude, when we have the right heart, because he's really not after our money. He was after the saving of our soul. And if we look at our life and say, well, I'm blessed, I must be right with God, that would be probably an inaccurate temperature. Because if we're unable to give cheerfully, it's very possible we don't have money. Money has us. So I want us to plant today, friends, but I don't want you to plant because you have to, and I don't want you to consider obedience planting seed. Because what's happening is you're now taking your obedience and you're expecting a harvest on obedience, and you're missing the blessings that come from obedience, and then you're never getting a harvest because you weren't being obedient correctly. So now you've done all of that and you get nothing, and people go, I did that thing, it doesn't work. Do you understand? It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Because God's not after money, he's after changing you. He's after getting your mind and your emotions into a position that come in line with his mind and his emotions. So if I consider my obedience in the wrong category, then now I'm wasting it. If I just, would it be a waste if I took the diesel fuel and I just spread it all over the field? I mean, we would call that Roundup. Permanent Roundup. It will accomplish something. It just won't accomplish what we want. So I don't want to waste, or I don't want to do something and then expect something and then be disappointed because I did the right stuff the wrong way. There's a lot of Christians who do the right stuff the wrong way, see there's no benefit to it, and then go, forget church. And I would agree with that. If it doesn't work, why do it? That's a waste of effort. So I want to do it properly so that the effort and the expense that I'm putting into it produces something. So don't dig up your seed. Trust that the seed will produce what the seed's supposed to produce. But you have to plant seed. Don't plant your obedience. Be obedient. And then from that place of obedience, you now are prepared to plant a seed. And that seed will produce just as how it's sown. from the heart that it's given. And that you get to purpose. You get to choose. Do you understand? I'm not here trying to raise money. You get to purpose. I don't get to purpose my obedience. When I ask my son to be obedient, he doesn't get to choose what part of obedience he gets to be. He gets to choose, do I do it now or do I do it after the correction for not doing it now? So I want to be obedient and then watch my seed multiply. Amen. Father, we love you. We thank you for your word. We thank you for the opportunity to be obedient. Thank you for the opportunity to give and to sow. Lord, we desire to do your word correctly so that we see the word produce in our lives. We don't want to see another generation come and go and think this God thing doesn't work. Too many people have done poor man traditions and that had nothing to do with what God said, and they called it God. So I thank you that we lose the old stigmas and history of what we think giving is, and we get the heart of what God's trying to do in our life about giving, so that obedience isn't a struggle, and then we can finally come to a place where we see that we are blessed and we're able to give cheerfully. That we can purpose in our heart and we can choose, and then we can look and see, wow, look what my seed produced. I tilled that ground. I was obedient and I planted it, and look what came up. Look at the harvest that now comes from that seed. We thank you for it, Lord.